Finally, we're on. Hello, everybody. A thumbs. Let me go here with me. You can say hi, Steve. We are going to be talking about, sorry about that. We had a little technical issues at first when we first started. So I'm going to go on here and I'm going to see if anybody's talking to us. And it looks like we're frozen. No, we're back up. So if we click on here, and then I want to see comments. And of course, they're not popping up. Okay. So anyways, if you guys can give us a thumbs up, if you guys can give us anything saying that you can hear us, saying stuff like that. I'll turn up my volume here. Hello? Hello. So anyways, if you guys can give us a thumbs up, because I think it's recording everywhere. If you guys have an echo, let me know. If you have an echo, nobody's even on. That's weird. I'm going to try something with the volume here. The echo's gone. Yeah. Okay, good. All right. I'm having problems with the mics again, you guys. Sorry about that. So anyways, hi, Maria. You can hear. Let me turn this down because I'm talking to myself here. Uh-oh. Oh, I turned it down. I turned it down and then I wasn't sure. So you look very happy to be here. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So anyways, hopefully we get some people watching us on Facebook. Oh, here we go. Jason's here. I see you. I hear you. Oh, very good. Thank you so much. And look at all the people popping up here. So we have special guests because Jasmine's not here tonight. And Steve is here. And we're going to talk about something that is that he knows a lot about. So I'm going to let you tell him what we're talking about.
We're going to be talking about wall art, the various ways you can decorate your walls, be it framed art or art for that matter, or even just mass-produced things that originally had other uses or intents that can now be used as wall art.
It's wall art. Can you believe that? That's awesome. So, there's Bill. We're getting a lot of people on Instagram. So we have a ton to go through. So we want to make sure everybody, my mom's not on yet. That's weird. I only have one person on Facebook. What's everybody out? Enjoying the weather? Everybody's out enjoying the weather, right? Maybe, did I not do it on? Looks like I'm streaming live on Time Warp. So at least we have somebody on there who talks. So, Steve, we're going to be talking about different mediums, right? And different things you can do with art.
And how to tell what things are.
So look at me, face up there. So Steve's going to tell you a little bit. So tell us, what are the different kinds of like wall art there are?
I mean, anything can be wall art. A dirty diaper hung on stuck to the wall could be wall art. I mean, it just depends what it is you're looking. Nowadays, a lot of people just want to cover their walls. They want them literally covered, especially in the man cave or the garage hangout or the basement hangout. So I mean, it could be anything from posters to actual art to just anything decorative or that's significant to you that you put on the wall. It could be ashtrays. We get a lot of people that buy the older ceramic kind of big gaudy ashtrays to hang on the wall. So I mean, it can be anything.
That's awesome. From the macrame owl that you see behind me over here. Oh, Instagram, you guys can't see that, so let me turn it this way so you can see the macrame owl behind my head there. From something like that to your standard pictures, wall tapestries, to all sorts of stuff. But one of the cool things whenever I get Steve here, what's that? Oh, I know. Isn't that cool? With the puffy. So one of the things I like to do is when I get Steve here is to talk about the different ways that we can do stuff, right? So, and I see people are starting to pile on. Sorry we were running late. How to tell the difference between certain things?
Well, the biggest difference more than anything is just, if something is considered art, there generally was some kind of laborious process that went into creating that piece. There had to have been a human element, well, in my opinion, a human element, I guess it could be anything. Mm-hmm. But they probably have AI doing art, and got monkeys and elephants painting too. So
Monkeys and elephants
but
painting.
basically, you know, you have oil paintings, you have watercolors, you have lithographs, you have serigraphs. All those are an art process. It's something that an artist has to do something to create something. Whereas a lot of things are just a mechanical printing process. And a lot of people call it, when you look through a loop, that you see a dot matrix. And that is a process that was used probably starting in the late 1900s, early 20th century. And it's just a way of printing with little dots of ink that when you pull away and you actually see the piece, it actually
those of you on Facebook can see what he's talking about there.
Whereas
I did a
if you
split
get
screen.
right up on it, it's going to be with magnification, being a loop or a magnifying glass, it's going to be a dot matrix. Generally, a dot matrix is a much cheaper printing process.
I would jump on Facebook if you want to see this, you guys. I'll have to post it later for Instagram.
They use that in magazines, posters, books, prints and books, pages and books. And it's just and in most cases, it's not something that's highly laborious. It's not considered art in the traditional sense. And it's, you know, strictly decorative.
So those of you who are on Facebook, and I will, let me turn you guys so you can see my screen, my computer screen maybe, and you can see it here a little bit, right here, the dot matrix, and I will put it up onto Facebook, onto Instagram, so that you guys can see it more so. But if you look closely, you can see the dot matrix. So that's printer.
But that's something that's a modern printing process. It's something that doesn't take an artist's skill or labor. It basically is a modern process that's used for mass-produced things like magazines, posters, books, newspapers.
And this is eyeglasses, but you can see the little dot matrix in there if you look closely, and that's what you want to look for if somebody tries to. So let me ask you, Steve, with this dot matrix up real quick, and I know you're going to show me it.
Where's the
what? The what? Oh, okay.
Now,
go ahead.
What I do want to point out, though, is
should I close
just because you see a dot matrix on something doesn't mean that it doesn't have value or interest to people. An old print is still an old print. A lot of the Maxfield Parrish pieces from the 20s and 30s, which are highly desirable, they used to go for a lot more than they do now. But you know, something like this used to go for $300 to $500 back 5-10 years ago.
And don't confuse it with a fox.
Considerably less. But if you look at this under a magnifying glass or a loop, this will have a dot matrix. So it's not an art piece, but it's a highly desirable decorative piece. So there is value and interest there because if you had a Maxfield Parrish oil painting or lithograph, they would probably be tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands.
So to satisfy you guys,
the decorative needs of the population in the 20s and 30s, these things were mass produced, put in decorative frames, and sold to be hung in people's homes.
Now, Maxwell Parrish, which was one of your mom's favorites, right?
Not necessarily.
No, but she had a bunch of them. It says his name right down here at the bottom, Maxfield Parrish. And you don't want to confuse that with Fox, right? Because Fox is very similar.
But the point I'm trying to make, though, is they're both collectible. Both
Fox
absolutely. Maxfield Parrish will have a little more deco flavor to it, whereas a Fox will have more of a everyday look to it.
Right.
But they're both highly collectible. But what I wanted to point out and make a point to tell you was, just because I said that dot matrix is a cheap printing process, that doesn't negate value or desirability for things that have that.
Right.
There's still going to be value and interest there. It's just not in the same level of quality as something that was actually an art piece.
So one of the things, if you don't have Facebook, Instagram, and you still want to see what we're talking about, you can jump on our YouTube at Time Warp LLC. Because this is streaming live now on YouTube as well, and you will be able to see the split screen for the dot matrix. I'll bring that up again a little bit later, so that way you guys can see the difference. Because if that was not a dot matrix, would that make it an original?
More than likely. I've never come across a Parrish lithograph.
So a lithograph would not have the dot matrix in it.
A art process where when you're looking at a lithograph, if you look at it under a loop, you won't see the dot matrix. You'll see the different various colors of color actually lying on the surface of the paper.
Oh, I should
You
have
can
put a
see
picture
it.
of that.
Um,
I didn't even think
now,
of that.
when you're looking at a lithograph, each color in a lithograph adds labor and value. So if you have a 2-color lithograph or you have a 10-color lithograph, a 10-color would have been 5 times as much work. With a lithograph, they actually make that out of a stone. They carve a stone for each color. So if you have an old 1890s French poster that's an original lithograph, then if it's got 5 or 6 colors, then somebody carved out a linoleum or a stone for each one of those colors. It was then rolled with ink, and then the paper was pressed down on it, or it was pressed onto the paper under great pressure, and then it was pulled away. And it would have left the imprint of the one color on that piece of paper. Mm-hmm. Then the artist would have inked up the next tablet, which may have been blue. And then anything on the end product that would have blue will be laying on the paper. So it's laborious in that they got to line it up. Sometimes you'll find where, one of the colors didn't get lined up just right, so it's a little off, and it's not touching the other colors.
Do we have the lithograph here?
That's a lithograph.
All right, let's grab that.
This
down.
is a lithograph, I think.
Is that lithograph?
But you really can't tell a lot about them without seeing them.
Okay, so this is a lithograph, you guys. We showed you before, this is a lithograph.
It's not going to look that much different than a print until you get it under the loop.
So what would you suggest? People going out and buying framed art to take a loop with you?
I suggest always have a magnifying glass at least.
So a magnifying glass. So that way when you look at it, here, show them how you look. Just pretend you're looking.
You bring the loop up to your eye, and then you bring your eye to the piece to try to
so you're almost kissing the piece, because you need to look that closely to see if it's a dot matrix or if it's a lithograph. Now, let me ask you this. A lithograph will tend to be more expensive, right?
Right, because it's a more laborious process.
Correct. So, but now, both of them are prints for the most part. Or both a lithograph and a dot matrix are not original oils. They're different makes of a painting.
They're prints, yes.
They're prints,
but this is still an artistic
process.
Correct.
Right, where dot matrix is just a copy.
Yes.
Okay. So when you walk into the stores, those of you who are up there in age like us, of course, and you go into the malls and you go to the poster stores, most of those are going to be a dot matrix, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Now, and also when he showed this one, and I said about the different colors, so like this one shade of blue here is only on this woman's dress. So when this person was doing this lithograph, the artist would have made a stone this size that would have only had that woman's dress in that color, and maybe if the sky is the same color. And those are the only things that would have been on that stone.
So this could be multiple layers.
Correct. And they have to actually visualize in their mind how they're going to do this when they're only carving one aspect of it on each stone.
That's
and
pretty
this
cool.
one would have required at least 7 or 8 stones to have completed.
So if you're buying art for your house, now if you go to like your main stores, like your Target, your Walmart, your stuff like that, and you're buying framed art, it's all going to be a dot matrix.
You're not going to
at home. You're not going to find lithographs for the most part.
These days, any lithograph you'd buy new or even newer, if it's been sold in the last 20, 30 years, they're going to hype it as a lithograph because it is a art process and it's highly collectible. You know, a lot of people look for it. A lot of lithographs, because the stone would lose texture and what's the word I'm looking for? Crispness. So a lot of times on lithographs and etchings are carved into copper or linoleum, and those are pressed on the paper the same way with the ink. Etchings usually aren't multiple colors, usually only one color, but in both the processes, it takes the artist to carve this out.
So you've got a dot matrix,
correct? But it's a highly
desirable artist, dot matrix. Then you have,
and this is still 110 years old,
even with the dot matrix, right?
Correct.
Right. Then you have a lithograph. So you have 2 different types of mediums that are done with the reprinting of stuff.
Correct.
Okay.
But in a lot of times, both lithographs and etchings, this is what I started to say, because printing it and pressing it down on the paper so many times over time will take away some of the crispness and some of the detail in the print. So a lot of times on lithographs specifically, you'll see them marked in the corner as number 5 of 500. So that means they only did 500 of that lithograph, and this is the 5th one printed. And this would be the 5th one printed, which means that more than likely it would have better crispness, better lines, and just have a little bit better valuable and desirability, because when people do collect these, and there's certain artists that they're rabid for, anything Dali,
right.
Picasso, or anything.
Speaking of which, I have some did you knows about those people.
But people want the lower numbers. If you're looking at a limited edition numbered lithograph, the lower the better.
Oh, awesome!
Like I mean, if you like the print and you're getting number 499 out of 500, if you like it, you like it. But a collector, if you were ever go to resell that or buy it for resale, 499 out of 500 might be a little bit of a disadvantage.
So I haven't seen my mom jump on yet. Are you on here, Mom? Give a wave if you are.
Hey, Marilyn.
Is she? Oh, it's not showing me that. You can look on your phone. It'll be easier. So, some did you knows, because you brought up Dolly. You brought up
Let me touch one more thing.
Okay, go ahead.
One more thing I do want to bring up is, and I'm still a little fuzzy on this myself because I don't find a lot of them that I really deal with. But besides the older technique, which is for hundreds of years, they also have serigraphs. And a serigraph is usually 1 or 2 colors. It's done through a screen printing process where they ink through a started turning up in the 70s. But then a hand art process.
Well, that's cool. I see devices. Uh-oh. It said we lost. We did.
Which one? All of them?
No.
It's frozen over here, though.
Yeah, it's slowly coming back. So I'm sorry about the jittery. For some reason, we're getting low connection through Restream. I'm starting to get irritated with them a little bit, but hopefully you guys can still see and hear us, because that would really suck. Anyways, so if you can, please let us know if you can still see or hear us, because I have no way of telling on here, just to make sure, because it's still saying here we have 7 people watching up there, and then 3 on the actual thing. So I don't know what's going on. Anyways, so we're going to continue going. And if you guys can't see or hear us, please send us something saying you can. So it's moving on here and it's moving on yours. So they must be able to. So anyway, some did you knows. And because it was hard to find any type of did you knows or anything when it came to framed art, because I mean it's just so vast in its style. But I will tell you a couple of things. Is one, Renoir, the one who did The Thinking Man and other bronzes. So he was a gross misogynist. Did you know that? I did not know that. So and then here we have well, I'm not going to say Dali's because it's not good. So Caravaggio, the artist Caravaggio. So he was while on the run from murdering his tennis opponent, Caravaggio sent a self-portrait of himself to Goliath, executed by David, to the papal court in hopes of a pardon. The pardon came through, but before the pardon could come through, Caravaggio was killed by the guy who was chasing him. I thought that was funny. You know what I mean? I thought it was pretty cool the way that is. Also, we've got Warhol. This I thought was interesting because I'm a Warhol fan. Are you? Mm-hmm. So Warhol lived with his mother from 1950 to 1970. The man was a starving artist for most of that time, but he lived from 1950 to 1970. And the only cap his mother said to him was, "You must with me every Sunday morning." So he did for 20 years. And he was not a religious man. I thought that was funny. There's some did you knows about that. And then I also have to tell you that, you know, during the research of this a little bit, the very first frame was actually Egyptians. They actually carved the frame into the same wood that they painted the picture on. So the first framed photo was actually a complete photo because they actually carved the frame in on the wood itself. I thought that was interesting because frames are a big part well, thank you. You can see and hear me. I hope people on Facebook can. I'm not getting much love from you guys. Where are the hearts and the love? What's going on here? So, anyways, what else do we have over here?
Well, I was going to do a little bit of a...
And tell us if there's certain things that you guys... I can. Okay, I'll share the dolly with you guys, but it is not a very pretty one. It's Salvador Dali. Because they're asking me to share the dolly. So I can mostly hear. Yeah, I'm telling you, the Rode microphones suck. Anyways, Salvador Dali had an unrepentant enthusiasm for Mussolini and Hitler. And I thought that was something that was really sad. What do you have there?
Well, I was going to kind of maybe do a little tutorial on what to look for to determine whether an oil painting is real or whether it's old. In a lot of situations, oil paintings are like a lot of things in that you can tell more from the back than you can in the front.
So why is that? Tell us.
So when you're looking at this, you're looking...
I'll be Vanna White, you guys.
When you're looking at an older frame like this, first thing you want to look at is it stapled or nailed the canvas to the stretcher. These are nailed. So if you look along here, you'll see these little rusty nails, and you can see how old and brown the canvas is that's been applied here.
Okay.
If you look at that and you see the old rose head or square cut nails, then that's going to tell you that it's probably early 1800s, maybe even late 1700s into the mid 1800s. A lot of times you just have guesswork.
Billy's watching. Hi, Billy.
But when you see that they've got these supports or pieces in here to give the stretcher more stability,
is that what this is for? That's
an older thing.
Okay.
That's an older thing. A lot of times on older pieces from the 1700s and 1800s,
so that
a
way
lot
they
of times
can see.
The frame can be worth more than the painting. Sometimes, you know, they had an original painting that was worth a fortune and they put a really good frame on it. And then 100 years later, someone didn't like that painting or it got, and they'll put an amateurish, pretty much no value painting in it, but it's got a $3,000 or $4,000 frame. And sometimes the frames will be signed, actually, in little stamped letters and names on them.
What's another good way to find any type of signature?
You always want to try to figure out the signature. Sometimes they would have used a little symbol that would be a combination of their initials. I've even had a couple, and not a lot, but someone told me to check, and I did on something I couldn't find. A lot of times you can just tell from the look of something, whether it's quality or whether it's an amateur. This is an amateur painter.
We're going to back up a little bit just so that way they can see.
But it's got a great frame. But a lot of times if you can't find a signature, I mean, sometimes it'll be down in the bottom where the frame actually comes up a little bit to cover the bottom of it. But a lot of times, too, you can do a black light. And sometimes you will find a signature you couldn't see and with a black light. This isn't one of them. But it is information.
Awesome.
And a lot of times on older pieces, there'll be stickers on the back. They could have been part of a show that the artist did at some famous gallery in Europe or even here in the United States. If there's any stickers or tags on the reverse, always leave them intact. And a lot of times your research might actually want to start there because you may be able to identify it from past auction catalogs or just
even
records that have been kept. Yeah.
Like crate number or whatever. So let me ask you something. So
like this actually, I didn't even notice. This has a patent date.
Your back is to the camera.
This has a patent date of 1880 on the stretcher.
Where at?
Right here.
Right there. So he's talking about right here, you guys. I don't know if you guys
stamp.
can
now that
see
wouldn't
it.
have anything to do with the artist. That wouldn't have anything to do with the frame. But it does tell you that the stretcher that the canvas was put on, that the artist painted on the canvas, was patented in 1880.
It was patented.
Could be 5 or 10 years either way.
You said this was an oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's another thing I was going to point out. On the early
Watch
frames,
your back to that camera.
the early frames, and Jason's going to bring it up a little bit. They were carved out of oak.
Yeah.
And then later I read that from what you had printed out, they were carved out of pine because they were easier. And those are the ones I was talking about that can have significant values, even more than the paintings that's in them.
I was going to say sometimes the frame's worth more than the painting.
Correct. But over time, what they did was they figured out a way of making these what look like heavily carved frames out of plain wood, yellow pine, and they would apply what's called gesso, which is a thin coating of plaster that would be in a mold, and they would apply the mold right to one side here. And
you know me, I break everything.
They would pull the mold off and the plaster would stay. That's why a lot of times you find these in such bad shape is if they were in a real dry atmosphere or a house for decades, they'll start to crack and they'll start to flake off.
So let me ask you, in a original that was in a frame, like let's say this was an original Picasso, let's just say, the frame would probably be all hand carved. It probably wouldn't have the gesso.
No, not necessarily.
It could still have the gesso.
Things from the
and if you find a Picasso,
years, things from the earlier years. To be honest, I doubt many Picassos would have been in this style of frame, which would have been gessoed. They'd have probably been in plainer metal or wood frames. But,
right.
The thing of it is they figured this happened in so many categories. Like people used to eat and drink out of silver,
right?
Flatware, and silver mugs and ewers, and the poor didn't have that opportunity. Well, then in the mid 1800s, they figured out how to plate silver, and it made these things available, these decorative items available to the masses. And that's what they did here. You had to be rich and wealthy to have a hand-carved wooden frame for generations or even centuries. And then sometime in the 1800s, someone said, you know what, we don't have to do all that labor and carve it. We can just apply plaster and it gives the same effect.
So let me ask you, outside of the frame, now this has a few pieces of, first of all, should people get their paintings cleaned if they're original oils? Like this is an original oil.
Well, I wouldn't say no. I've never done it. I always leave everything as is. But
if you do, it should be done by somebody.
If you are going to do anything with something that has value in the way of art, be it a painting, a lithograph, a rare poster, always go with a professional.
Always. So let me ask you on this, like you see the little color loss here that can all be touched up by it, restorer, right? Something to that effect. Plus, cleaning this would make it a lot
of times it'll make it bright. A lot of times paintings were under glass, and that can actually cause condition issues that are a whole nother realm of issues. But a lot of times they weren't, and they were just exposed. And depending on where they were and how old they were, I mean, they had kerosene lamps, they had fireplaces, they read by candlelight. So a lot of things that were around hanging on the walls near the ceiling would end up with that soot on it. And I've seen instances where they've cleaned paintings, and I mean the difference is just magnificent, the colors and the way it pops. But always do it with a professional. Don't try it yourself.
So I know everybody's wondering. So when you come across a painting like this, and it is an amateur, somebody who is not famous, a lot of people wonder if the canvas has been either A, painted over, B, there's something on the back of it, because we've heard in the media that some famous paintings have been found on the back. What would you suggest if somebody buy? I mean, because I don't want you all running out to every sale and buying all these and opening the back, because trust me, we would do it if we thought there was that big of a chance. But this is the type of painting something like that would be done on.
Well, I'll show you. Hold this one.
I'll
show you what you want to look for in something like that.
Yeah. So we're giving you all the secrets, everybody. All the secrets. So Steve has been doing this all his life. I've been doing it for the past 15 years. And so Steve has come across, hi, Shirley, how are you?
So this one is an instance. This is just based on the image. You wouldn't necessarily know. This is a...
it's carpet, you guys.
This is a, actually, it's a punch embroidery technique from Japan.
Oh, I thought it was carpet. A punch embroidery technique.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's Japanese.
Okay.
But what I want to point out is this is a rudimentary piece. It's not anything exceptional.
It's got a googly eye.
It's got some fading, so the colors aren't quite as pop, but it is fabric, so it tends to do that. But what I really wanted to show you as an example is the back. Remember I said you can tell more from something about the back than the front? Look at how ancient that back is.
Yeah.
And it's been pulled up and it had paper over it. Well, this is one thing I wanted to point out, and I'll tell you a couple of instances where it's benefited me and someone else as well. This had paper over it at one time. A lot of times what happened was when people were framing things in the late 1800s, early 1900s, even into the 30s and 40s, they would take something like this, and before they put this wood slat back over it, they would put a spacer in there to hold whatever it was in place.
Okay.
That's in the front. So you put your piece of art in the front, and then you have some nondescript piece of cardboard in back of it, and then they would put the wood on, and then they'd seal it with paper.
Oh.
But what happened is a lot of times that insignificant piece of cardboard that they would put up against the art between the wood and the art was something that they had around that to them was nondescript and not of value.
So it could be another picture.
Well, a lot of times, and this happened to me, one of the first things I found in the movie poster lines was I was out at Dixieland Flea Market.
Is this the story that Jason wanted you to tell?
I don't know.
Oh.
I was out at Dixieland Flea Market, and a guy had a picture like this, and out of the back, he had pulled a 1917 Charlie Chaplin window card.
We have that.
Had been cut down in 2 inches on two sides.
Charlie Chaplin.
Somebody had cut it down so it would fit to be a backing in something else they were framing, because this poster was nothing to them. But in the same respect, because it was in back of that painting, even though it was trimmed, it was still in pristine condition with the colors. The colors had not lost any of their vibrancy. And this was a window card called The Cure with Charlie Chaplin.
Which we think is where The Cure got their name.
Actually, The Cure in an interview did say that they got their name from this. And at the time we sold that, it was the only known image of that poster from that movie. So there were other posters, but the window card image wasn't out there.
What Steve is getting at is he found the Charlie Chaplin. We sent it off to Heritage Auction, and it ended up selling for X amount of dollars, a good amount, because it turned out to be something else than what we thought it was. But so it does happen, you guys. Now, does it happen with a Picasso or a Michelangelo? No, I mean,
but it could be anything. It could be a sign for your local grocery store that someone
that could still be worth some money.
The side of a Campbell's soup box with a nice big Campbell's logo. My point is if you ever find framed art and it looks like it has a back that's been on there for a long time, always undo those nails. Take a peek on it. There was an incident, and this is what made me start doing it 10, 15 years ago.
This is what he was talking about.
There was an instance where in Philadelphia, someone went to a flea market 10, 15 years ago, and they found an old picture, and they took it home, and they took the nails out of the back, and they found one of only, at the time, I think it was 5 known copies of the original Declaration of Independence was behind that picture. I mean, sometimes they use it for utilitarian purposes to reinforce something that they're framing, but in some cases, and I have to assume in that one, someone put it back there for safekeeping. So I guess, not that it's ever happened to me, but I guess there's always that chance you could find something back there, whether it be bills, another piece of art, or something very valuable that somebody considered a great hiding spot to keep something safe.
Yeah, the Egyptians is the one you read this?
I read part of it.
Did you? So he told you some of that. The frames became a huge aspect during the Renaissance period because they were extremely ornate and crazy, right?
Yeah.
So the one picture that we have over there of I think it's over there actually, behind Jesus, over there. It's the one of the boy with the guy in the really ornate frame. Isn't that it?
This is just a frame.
Oh. Really?
Oh, here.
Oh, here it is. Okay, so this is a really big ornate frame, and it's just got a picture of some gentleman, probably the man of the house at the time. And a lot of people like pictures like oh, goodness gracious. It's dusty. So this is what it looks like, dusty. And so, you know, but somebody, this is great for a good oddity section. Somebody has a, like a funeral-y section or something to that, or a creepy section. This would be great because the guy in there, of course, he had to stand there while somebody drew him. But look at this frame. This frame is gorgeous. It's got the gesso in protrusion here. Does the back of it, and
Well,
the back
actually,
similar.
The way they put these together, it's actually like 3 frames in one.
Like, look at
This
this.
one is a frame. This actually contains the photograph.
Mhm.
This is another one around it, which is this part here up to here.
Right.
And then this is a whole nother frame. And then this is another.
So it was all about
kind of
layering and
put
making
inside of each other.
Yeah.
But you'll sometimes find them where if something happened to this outer part, they just got the inner pieces.
Right.
So you'll see it where it's not nearly as wide. The cool thing about this one is usually these were painted with gold radiator paints in the 40s and 50s. So this one
gold
has the
radiator
wood.
paint.
It was a big thing.
I love
They
that.
painted everything with gold radiator paint. But this having the wood here and the wood here and
That's
not having been
craziness.
painted, this is an original condition, which is kind of rare because generally you'll find them having been painted over the wood and the gesso in one color.
That is too cool. So, yeah. So let's move up modern day. So we're talking about the different things. This is a pencil
This
drawing.
is another one where
Is this a dot matrix? Maybe?
no, but this is one where you would take this back off to see if something's underneath this wood.
Which we have not.
Yes, we have.
Oh, we have. Steve has.
I just put the nails back
Of course
in
he
very
has.
delicately so you can't tell it's been opened.
All right, so let's move up a little bit to different types of mediums because we all love a good picture, right? We all have walls. We all have things that we want to put up. So there's multi-medium talking stuff.
Black velvet or-
Yeah, we do black velvet, and then we'll do this. So it's always good in the 70s, the velvet paintings, right? Everybody had a velvet Jesus in their house, right? So this is velvet, and as you can see, it's stretched velvet and then painted on. So tell me, Steve, is there anything we need to know about the stretched velvets?
Just that a lot of them came out of Mexico. They were a big thing in the 60s and 70s.
And there's your signature.
They were considered something that was kind of lowbrow,
Kitschy.
lowbrow. Nothing of any, no one of any importance or any significance would hang one in their home in the day.
Today they're all the rage.
Now they're
Today they're all the rage.
and especially
The
if you
kitschy
can
of the
find them in nudes,
or tiki nudes.
ethnic women,
Yeah.
anything.
Or just anything. Like we go through these. Like we have the
devil sitting on the toilet's a popular one.
It is. So they're on the velvet. We got the velvet throws as well. The velvet canvases.
Mm-hmm.
The velvet canvases. Those of you who grew up in the South or the West know that in the 80s you would have a car pull up to a flea market.
There's another.
You'd have a car pull up at a flea market, and then out came all of the velvet canvases draped across your cars, right? So those are all the rage now. Look at this one. This one is a velvet of a still life, fruit and wine, something to this effect, which would look cool. Very gothic almost looking.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's velvet. What do you have there?
This is a paint by numbers, but it's on plastic. It's a plastic canvas.
Over here.
That's a paint by number that's undone.
Right. So this is a paint by numbers, and paint by numbers were huge back in the day, right? So you have probably a Spanish lady playing the guitar, and the cool thing about this is somebody painted it on plastic.
Yeah, it was a kit you would have bought.
It was a kit you would have bought, he says.
So it's
What
textured
else?
plastic. That's another thing I should point out too is on this, how it has that texture, it makes it seem like it's hand painted.
It does. It makes it seem like it's an oil.
The other thing is, just like I said, how over time they were able to take things that are only available to the rich and make them available to the common folks.
Right.
They did the same thing with paintings
Mm-hmm.
in that starting probably in the late 1800s, they would take prints that were like the mechanical prints like I described in the dot matrix, and they would put a kind of layer of decoupage over them, almost like an Elmer's glue, and it would be done with brush strokes. So it would make it look like there's brush strokes. But if you look, the brush strokes about every 4 inches are exactly the same as the ones a few inches away. So that's always something that gives it away. And if you look at it with a loop, you may think you have an oil painting because of the textured surface, but in actuality, it's a print.
So why is this one different?
Now this is different and cool because this was something they were doing. This one's dated 72.
1972. I was 1 year old.
Everybody probably realizes is just like I said, they made the picture frames available and cheap enough for the masses to have them by applying the gesso. By the 70s, they were taking these and making these out of plastic. So this is a very thin plastic. This is a Schlitz sign, but it was made to look like it had this really.
Oh, my mom's on my page's video because it's streaming on all of them. Hi, Mom.
Hi, Marilyn. So this one was one more case where they're taking something and making it looking like it's something a lot more than what it is. Because when you look at this, it's just printed cardboard and what do you call it? Molded plastic. But
and this would be like a dual collector because it is Schlitz beer, so it's a beer advertisement.
Correct.
But it's also a 70s photo. It's
The
cardboard
Maid's-
on
The Maid's Dilemma.
the Maid's Dilemma. So, but it has the
Which looks
Schlitz
like
beer.
he doesn't want to let her out of the room.
Right, 1972. So this would be in your father's.
But that's
bar.
in 72. A lot of the advertising was looking back upon, and not how this sounds, the gay 90s, which was the 1890s, where you had the cops with
When the word gay
round
meant
hats.
happy. So this is a mixed media, and this is also a religious picture. This holds several different mixed media.
This is also kind of a blow mold plastic.
Yep, and then the pebble art.
And then it's got pebble art around it. This is probably a kit as well. And then this is all plastic.
So this is the Last Supper. And as you can see, I'll do it close. It's multimedia. It's got plastic, blow mold kit type thing. Then
It's got the gravel art.
the gravel art on it. And it gives it a three-dimensional look. A very 70s three-dimensional look, which I thought was cool. So if you are a big fan of mixed media, this is how this would look. Look, I changed the banner to green to ours. I love that. So tell me about this one.
Now these we actually were buying probably in the
I
early
fell in love with
2000s.
this artist.
This was an artist out of Chicago called Esqui.
Yeah.
And Esqui did what's called Geelies. And if you look at this
Geelies.
up close, you can see the texture. So example, his eyebrows.
Do that one
You
too.
can see the texture in his eyebrows. And what a Geely is it's generally a mechanical print that an artist
Hey, Mike, how's it going?
can still call art because once it's printed, he goes through and adds a few flourishes of hand paint. Like the yellow here is hand painted and you can feel the texture.
Geely.
The little white spots here, the eyebrows, the little irises in the eye, you can actually feel that those are little blobs of paint that have been added to the surface.
I'm going to tell
And
you.
that's called a Geely, Giglee, I think it is.
I got in this whole mood because this guy painted, Esquire painted some of the coolest pop art people of the time. So there's a Divine one. We've had
Endora.
all of
We
these
did
different
all the
ones.
cereals.
So we just kept buying.
We had about 5 or 6.
And then we brought because they weren't cheap. So then we brought some in here and sold it, and I kept a few at home. So,
This is his
Geely.
name, Esqui.
That's-
But yeah, so this is something that is art in a what some people would say lesser state, if you will. But it is hand applied paint, so there is artist decoration on it, so it qualifies.
Now this one.
And this one is more of just like a needlepoint. You'll find a lot of needlepoints go back several hundred years, to the late probably early 1700s. And
And a lot of them are windmills, you say.
Well, Dutch themes were a big thing then. But a lot of the older pieces will go back to the 1800s, and they were what's called samplers, where a young girl who was being educated in some of the better schools, they would have to,
It's needlepoint, you guys.
part of their course or part of their education would be to make a sampling of all the various techniques in sewing and embroidery and crocheting that they have the ability to do. So you'll see them where they'll spell their name out, and then there'll be all the letters of the alphabet. There'll be all the numbers up till, you know, whatever. And the more detailed those are, and the older, they can be worth big money. Some of them tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars if they're really good folk art pieces. Some were actually, there was a pattern laid out on the canvas, and they just had to follow the lines and do it that way. That's one thing. But when you find them that they were done freestyle, where there was no pattern and there's not another one out there like it anywhere in the world, that can add significant value. Folk art is something that people just love.
What do you guys think this is made of? Somebody tell me. There is an amazing exposition at the DIA right now. Fast embroidered samples. Oh, that's a good call. You go down to the DIA, take a look at what we're talking about.
Samplers are incredible.
Yeah, they are. That's actually a good idea.
And when you look at these, a lot of them were done by 8 and 10-year-old girls that had these skills already. And that was to prepare themselves for marriage at 13, 14,
You know
15.
why, though? Because there was no cell phone to distract them. So what do you guys think that this was made of? What do you think this is made of? I'm going to come back to you in a minute. What do you think this is made out of? This is not painted on. This is not any of the mediums we talked about. So I'm going to try and get somewhat up close so you guys can see, and you guys can tell me what these are made of. I'm going to revisit these. We've got 10 minutes left. So I wanted to show you real quick that this is a paint by number that would have been similar to the paint by number you showed on plastic. Yeah, so we have the kits here, so you can always come in and do a paint by number.
Actually, this is unopened, so I'm not sure, but this says embossed numbered. So there's a chance this may be the same type of flat plastic that the
this one is open. And it is.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is more of a plastic.
Yeah, so it's a thicker one. So we do have these. We have another one that is unopened, but you have different. You can collect the set back in the day.
This one was the music, so this would have been probably the middle or towards the end of the folk art music scene in the 60s. So they're all playing acoustic guitars and, just something that someone didn't get around to doing.
So I got to show you guys this here. This piece of wall art. This is University of Michigan.
Now, this is actually an aerial photo. And this is one that you would look at with a loupe.
Now, why would we look at this with a loupe?
Because you want to know if it's a photograph or whether it is a dot matrix.
What is it?
This is a dot matrix. So this would be more of a poster. Mm-hmm. Whereas if this weren't dot matrix, that would be a blow up of an actual photograph. And whoever would have had that done originally, that would have been very expensive to have blown that up and had that printed on.
What I'm showing you guys is Michigan University, right? This is the big house, right? Yeah. So this is, when do you think this is
from those cars, I'd say it's 70s.
70s? Does it say down there in that corner circle?
No.
Okay. 1970s, the big house. Look at that. Packed. There must be a good game going on. But it is a great addition to like a game room, anywhere really.
Well, a lot of times when people want wall art just for the sake of covering the walls, like in a man cave or the basement hangout, they want big pieces like this. They want to maximize. They want to cover all the walls and they want to maximize. So they like the big banners. They like the big posters.
Isn't that crazy?
And the thing of it is a lot of times on the posters can be $20 to $50, but the frame for them can actually be $50 to $100. That's an Elvis poster.
An Elvis poster, because we always hung posters up in their house. I did. So why would I grab this?
Just because it's wall art.
It's wall art.
Take up room.
And what's cool about this is Highland Park, Michigan High School, 1954.
This is the Washington Club when they went on a trip to Washington, D.C. What's funny about these is these are what's called yard photos sometimes, or panographic. And what's funny is they were usually they were taken with a camera that had to actually sweep the whole area. So what you'll find a lot of times in these, there's always one joker in the back that when he was in down here, he ran through here and you'll see him down here again. And there's always one person that does those in these old photos.
So she says that the Painted on Silk, the art of early American embroidery is the name of the exhibit. That is pretty cool.
Out, yeah.
You know what? I like these too because even if you didn't go to Highland Park High School, this is, you know, Metro Detroit, the area you live in. This is memory. This is stuff like that. Old photographs are great to look at. They tell a story of our history if you look closely, and they're just great historical things to put up in, like, you know, if you're a teacher, you may never have taught there, but this is a school.
What's really great about this is 1954. It's Highland Park High School. It's all the students that went on the trip to Washington, D.C. They're posed here at Mount Vernon, May 4th, 1954. And look at what they're wearing.
What are they wearing?
All the boys are in suit and ties. All the girls are in dresses and hats. And this is on a high school field trip to Washington, D.C., sitting out on the lawn at Mount Vernon. To me, that just speaks volumes for who
1954, and it is.
You see anyone not in a
no, and there is all races in here. It's not all single race.
But more importantly, the dress.
No, they're all in suits. And every girl in here has a hat on.
A dress and a hat.
So a tie and a hat. That's mandatory for all of them. They would get dressed up. They would go. So something like this is a great history of schools in general, not just Metro Detroit. Mm-hmm. So hanging stuff like this starts conversations with people. It's great.
I need the foot chart.
So we have what?
I need the foot chart.
We have a billion different framed art because Steve tends to love framed art.
This is just an example of something that was used in one capacity in a doctor's office somewhere. It's a chart they hung on the wall, and now people would want to put this on their wall at home. It's just, it's crazy.
So we wanted to do this, and then of course we've got, you know, street signs, stuff like that, which is always good. A lot of people like those, the stop signs, all sorts of stuff, and then.
This is a piece.
Real quick. Just because I want to end with that black piece.
Elaborate clocks.
And it is.
This is all copper discs decorated with enamel and then applied to the surface of this clock.
Now, so this could sit out, but it does hang.
This is all enamel copper plaques. Yeah, you can put this on like a mantle and leave it folded a little bit.
Isn't that beautiful, you guys? I love it. But it is. It does hang on the wall. And you can keep it open or closed. It's kind of cool, I think.
But I just love the little
I did too.
Copper enamel cartouches.
All right.
This is a cool piece. This is something that would be considered mixed media, I guess. But
in a way,
it's kind of dark. It's a little bit depressing.
Now, there's a reason we're showing you this.
But then you turn it around and you read the tag that's on the back. There's a tag on the back. And this tag is from the annual exhibition for Michigan artists, the Detroit Institute of Arts, Detroit, Michigan. And this is titled When the Smoke Clears. It was done by a Marianne Zielinski who lived on Caldwell in Detroit. And I was told when I got this that this was something the young lady did in reference to the riots, to the Detroit riots. And this is what she visualized as art. And When the Smoke Clears is the title of the piece.
So, wow, there's no zip code.
Yeah, I know.
Did you show that up close? Look at this. This is what he's talking about, you guys.
But that's a tag from an exhibition at DIA.
At
and it was probably a student artist. It was probably something they did.
Is it 1962?
I don't know.
Because zip codes didn't come out till then. Interesting. I love this. It's just, it's.
I mean, the thing of it is because it's so dark, I mean, somebody could take that now and they could give it a little bit of color or even some accents of color to make it pop a little more.
So we've shown you several different, because I'm going to show them that again. We've shown you guys several different types of mediums. I still have this one. Has anyone given me an idea of what you think this is made out of? Come on, come on. What do you think this is made out of? So we've got two of them. And there's one thing I love about this because okay, so I'm going to tell you because nobody's jumping on the bandwagon and telling me what they think it is. Or you could be on one of the other channels we're streaming on, and I can't tell. But it's shell, right?
It's shell. It's made out of
Is she calling you?
tiny little bits. They're tiny little, like you can see on this one here, on the white. These are the types of shells you pick up on the beach in the sand in North Florida. The little teeny clamshell like.
And it is signed by Annetta, and Annetta probably. But somebody sat there and attached every one of these. This is crazy because these are tiny and they're small, and somebody put
before super glue too.
Yeah, so they attach these using some sort of something. Yeah. It's pretty cool. So we've shown you a lot of different things. I'm going to turn this a little bit just so that you can see those. You want to go stand out there and point at them? So I'm going to turn you guys in a second because there's something on the wall over here that. What?
The 70s wall art.
Oh yeah, here's a good one. 70s wall art, which is mirrored art. Mirrored art. So anything with a reflective background was always huge in the 70s because, you know, we all wanted to see ourselves. But this is, it's in French. I have no clue. But
it's from England. It's La Mocha.
La Mocha.
I think, or no.
Or no, it's just Mocha.
Okay.
Mocha, but it's Electa de Jour. But
of the day, I think. I think it might be a season. It might be spring.
It's heavy, too. It's a heavy piece.
It may have been a set of 4.
So on the back of it, it tells you your stock number and everything.
It's from England, 1970s. From England.
These are the things you want to look for.
May have a date on it even.
I don't see one.
No, okay.
But anyways, and a lot of beer mirrors from the time period were also the mirror backgrounds. Okay, so, nope, you just go point at them. I'm turning you guys.
These are some of the other pieces. These are something that was real popular in the 70s, but I think these are later. These are probably more 80s. But you put them into different patterns and designs on your wall. And these are spectacular. These are great pieces. These are 70s.
Mm-hmm. So as you guys can see, we have a ton of framed art, a ton of wall pieces, a ton of all of that. And I will turn you guys back here in a moment.
And stuff like, I mean, it's not framed art, but it is wall art.
Mm-hmm.
But these were handmade pieces.
Yeah, they're sharp. So don't, if you come in and look at it, don't cut yourself. I'm turning you back. First you Facebook, now you Instagram, because I'm going to drop you Instagram. My fingers just don't like to work. Hi there. Now you get to see me close up and run and scream.
A big porch you have.
Right? Isn't that crazy? Now everybody ran and screamed. Run and scream because I was too close to be seen. Right? Anyways. Wow. Steve, it's after 7:30. Look at the macrame owl. I love it. We didn't show that.
We did.
Oh, we did? Okay, so you guys, there's so much more here. And I've left Steve's name up the whole time because apparently I don't exist. But here's me, just so you have it. Boom, there's me. So there's a couple things coming up I'm totally excited about that I gotta tell you about. One, I talked to a friend of mine. His name is Charles Phoenix, and we're gonna work out a time to do a Zoom live with him and bring him onto Time Warp Live, TWL, and have him a part of that for a night. I'm so excited. He's just getting over a cold, so we are going to schedule this starting next week, and I will let you know when it's going to be. But yes, indeed, Charles Phoenix will be zoomed in with me. And of course, you can, I'm working on a show with Bill Morris, who is a comic book artist with years with Bongo Comics. And he also worked on the shows like Simpsons and Futurama and Roswell, and he did a lot of cover work for Disney, including the controversial Little Mermaid ad. So there's a lot of cool shows coming up this year. Steve's going to jump in on some of them with us. Jasmine's going to be on some of them with us, stuff like that. Also check out on March 1st, we will be going live from the Autorama again this year. Partial live, partial recorded. So there will be 2 shows coming out of that one. I'm excited. You can also catch me every Monday morning on Caffeinated Conversation. So please make sure that you watch, you jump in and see, and give them a follow because, you know, they got some cool stuff on there. Steve's been on it. Yep. So,
can't get away from all of it.
Nope. So, I'm totally excited. I'm totally thrilled. And thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Because I know today is normally your day off. They can't see you.
And I was going to binge watch Ted Lasso all day.
Yes, he was. And of course, I got rid of that for him by saying, well, actually, he had to pick me up because we're down to one car. Only because his is being fixed. So, what else? What else is going on, Steve? What else should they be excited to watch?
We got the Autorama coming up.
Yep.
Outside of that, just come on in. Lots of new stuff.
I just found out about Charles Phoenix today, so I'm excited about it. Thank you, Maria. I loved it. Thank you. Let me wave to Ken, to that person. And remember, if there's anything you guys want to talk about, please make sure that you message us down below. Give us a follow, a like. This was live on several Facebook pages. My personal one, my profile, my public one, Time Warp, and also the our YouTube page. We're going to start putting it on Steve's personal page starting next week, and hopefully more. So that way more people can see the Time Warp live. And if you have any ideas you want to talk about, please let me know, and we will make sure we put it into the roster. So anyways, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Yes, thank you.
And a big thank you to this guy for jumping in, because every time he comes, he teaches us a lot of stuff. So anyways, you guys have a good night, and we're going home because it is probably 5 degrees outside.
It's supposed to be 7 tomorrow. 7 below.
7 below in the morning when we wake up. Let me tell you, I'm not looking forward to it. So anyways, we bid you adieu and have a good night.
Bye, everyone.
Uh-oh. I forgot how to turn all this stuff off. There we go.